Have you ever felt frustrated, overwhelmed, or stuck wasting time in admin instead of growing, leveraging, and scaling your business? Then this podcast is for you. Welcome to Delegate to Elevate, the podcast that's all about handing off what you don't need to do so you can focus on what you do best. So here's your host, Bonnie Schutz.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Delegate to Elevate. Get done. I'm your host, Bonnie Schutz, and today my guest is Carey. Hi, Caitlin.
Hi, Bonnie. Thank you for having me.
You bet. Caitlin is the founder of a leading marketing agency that helps companies use events to drive real ROI, not just buzz. With over a decade of experience, she has produced high impact trade shows and client activations for top technology brands. Caitlin has built her business by strategically delegating operations. Yes. Creative and logistics, so she can focus on what she does best, delivering bold revenue generating event strategies. She's here to share how leveraging the right team has helped her scale her agency, win dream clients, and actually enjoy the process. You're an ideal guest. This is entirely our aim. So welcome.
Good.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
I
Thank
love
you.
that bio is spot on. So thank you for providing that. This show has just given me so much joy, and it is such a passion project for me. And I'm just going to tell everybody right now, Caitlin is one of my clients. I have someone from my team that supports her. I'll let her share anything she'd like to about that. She also provided me with a couple quotes. So maybe we could start with these quotes. And I love the prep she did. Like, you're totally hired if you want to ever work for me.
Thank you.
Right. So she said, I used to do everything myself, from scheduling to packing, shipping crates. Been there. I can recall that.
Yeah,
That
right?
doesn't scale. What more can you tell me about that? Or tell me about like when you had that revelation, you mean like revelation in your head, like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore.
Totally. No, and I love working with your team and working with your team. And I know Nicole Gilmartin connected me to you. So I'm so grateful for that. But, as a type A planner, with events are so forward facing,
Right.
No detail is too small. So, any typos or brand colors or things like that, like, it all lands on me and my company's name is on it. So learning how to delegate was just something I had to deliberately do. It wasn't something that was going to happen overnight, and it wasn't going to be something that just happened itself. So recognizing that with the right processes, documentation, over communicating, and really hiring the right people that I could trust has been a journey. And
with a few bumps in the road out here and there.
Completely. How much time do we have?
Yeah, right. We can talk the good, bad, the ugly. Share it all.
Yeah. No, I am all about that because I love supporting other fellow entrepreneurs. We've started these businesses to create, a life beyond our wildest dreams. We wanted to build companies that, gave me more flexibility with my time, allowed me to get to gym classes, take time off when I want to, and making sure that you're not creating this, nightmare of a business that has you running 24/7. And I think I had to get to that
hustle
point.
culture. No thing. That's not a thing for me.
Exactly.
Oh my
so
God.
I really had to get to that point to then recognize, all right, what can I take off my plate? And working with your team has just been such a blessing to help me recognize what things I can really trust, other capable, strong professionals with that will make the client happy and also, deliver. So
I love that. I'll give a shout out to your VA, Dana.
She's the best. Dana,
we love Dana. That's awesome. So you also said once you committed to running a real agency, not a freelance service, you had to delegate to grow. Like, again, more of my love language. You could just like write my scripts for me. I love this. I can tell you know what you're doing, and that having that self-introspective point where you're like, I can start as a freelancer, but I really want to grow. And the only way I'm going to do that is if I get some shit off my plate, because I cannot do this by myself. And I liken it much like to, you can't raise, you raise a child with the village raises the child. Your business is your child,
It's so true.
right?
It's so true.
It takes
Yes.
a village. Yes. Um,
Yes. And
what else can you say
recognizing that
about that? So you're staying in your zone of genius, or I changed it to genius zone because I'm so tired of zone of genius. No offense.
I like
There's got to be something else I can say.
totally.
I'm all about variety, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you stay in your zone, but you
Hmm.
said letting others lead. Where do you let others that you delegate or outsource to lead?
Yeah, so I had to really recognize that I needed to bring in support, from the beginning of an event. When we
Yeah.
were starting to work with the client. This wasn't someone that I was going to throw in at the end and say, "Oh my
Right.
gosh, this is the whole story." It was really doing it in a strategic, deliberate way of saying,
Mm-hmm.
"Okay, what is it that I bring to the table, like from my expertise?" I've been doing this for, almost 15 years now, in the
Congrats.
marketing
Yeah.
space. Trade shows have really become my bread and butter. Um, Companies spend so much money on trade shows, and if it's not done right, it's a huge waste of money. So
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I really take pride in is saying, really measuring the ROI and really showing these companies that every dollar they put into their trade show, that we're going to make, each of those touch points count.
Yeah.
So when it came to delegating, these high touch initiatives, when we're really in the weeds with our clients, working with them daily as they, work on these marketing campaigns,
Mm-hmm.
it was really recognizing, what are those things that these clients are hiring me for?
Yeah.
It's that general vision. It's the, which vendors do we want to work with? And once I lay that groundwork, that's where I can trust other people to do those other tasks, to,
Mm-hmm.
bring the ball forward and,
Yeah.
deliver. So that was something that, it's taken years of delegating
Yeah.
and learning how to, but I really needed to
Growing that
recognize
muscle, I would say. Yeah.
completely growing that
Yeah.
muscle,
Yeah.
and recognizing what I can bring to the table, and then what I can trust others to take off my
I love
plate.
that. And that ties right into the next liner that you provide me too. And like where you said delegation isn't about handing off low level tasks. And it's about, building a team that owns the outcomes. And my word literally for this year, you know how you do the word for the year
Yeah.
thing, was ownership. So
Ooh, I
we are
like
very much aligned.
I like that.
Own that, excuse my
Yes.
language, but own it.
Yes.
Because you can kind of use your intuitiveness when you're talking to a potential person to support you. If you feel that they exude that, oh yeah, I love this, and they're gonna they're gonna own their mistakes and take their wins. And I
Exactly.
mean that's super important to me anyway.
Yeah, and articulating that ownership is huge. I learned the hard way by not defining that ownership, and suddenly I'm still
Mm.
involved with every single task leading up to it, which
Yeah.
was not the intention.
Mm-mm.
So completely, like really delivering, giving someone ownership so that they feel comfortable making decisions, and not
Yeah.
that I need to be involved in every
Everything.
conversation, leading up to the event.
There's one question I ask all my guests, and I'm just curious, what was the very first thing you outsourced or delegated in your business?
Ooh, great question. Hands down, it was bookkeeping.
Yes.
That was
Everybody says that.
the first thing, and even then, I still feel like as a business owner, numbers are everything. That's why we're in business. So,
Mhm.
as much as I wanted to outsource that, I recognized that I needed to still like know my numbers,
Yeah.
inside and
Right.
out. So that was something that I enjoyed delegating. But I also recognized that I still needed to know my numbers. And
Yeah.
then since then, I've been able to delegate more,
Yeah.
more day-to-day tasks, or more strategic programs that I just don't have time for in my day-to-day, but
Yes.
want at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So yeah, bookkeeping was number one. That was definitely the first thing to kind of get
That's
off my
crazy.
plate.
That's the first thing I cross delegated to my spouse and
Okay,
took
I like that.
the queen's scepter out and said, I now don you, knight of the bookkeeping.
Good. I love that.
And so I have a really broad, open mind about the word delegation. Like it's
Nice.
not so literal in my head. Sometimes I think about creative ways, like you're a creative person, so you might get me there. So that's like cross delegation. There's ways to cross delegate to others that are your equal, sort of, in some sort of way, like business owners, you and I, like that would be cross delegating. If I popped into your business and you popped into mine and we helped each other with something that was our own, sweet spot, something that we know really well. I've also talked about delegating your mind to like a coach. Have you ever had a coach?
Yes.
Okay.
I've had several coaches, and
Good.
I really believe in coaches, like, to be there for a specific amount of time,
Yeah.
like 6 months, 3 months, really get specific about what you want to learn out of a coach. I found that to be the most productive. And then one coach that I work with regularly, his name is Chris Dancy. He really helps me create systems in my business.
That's
So
great.
really figuring out how to, take a step back and create, systems that I can log into every day, like, a dashboard that has all the documents that I look at on a daily basis.
Love a good dashboard.
Completely.
I love that. And I love that you're open to setting up your team members as leaders, and that's that ownership and allowing them to lead part. And this is what really sticks out for me. And I will quote this: when I trust them, clients trust them. And that is like what I call a golden nugget that I pull out of these podcast episodes, because it is so true. I.e. Dana, I trust her. She's been on my team forever. So now you trust her, I think.
Yes, definitely.
I don't want to speak for you, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that is golden right there, because, and it's not something that happened overnight. I was just looking, and you've been working together almost 3 years. I mean, it's like crazy. It's 2.5 at least.
Yeah.
It takes a little time, and I want everybody out there to know this is not an overnight thing. And I think you said that a little bit earlier. You make mistakes.
Yes.
You learn lots of lessons.
Yeah, I learned a lot of lessons, and before I started working with your team, I tried the, hiring somebody, training them virtually.
Yeah.
And it was hard. And especially in a hybrid world, when I'm either on the road with clients or traveling to their offices or doing a lot of work from home, as you build your business and you recognize, okay, I want to grow, how do I take this next step? I found that, like, dipping your toes in the water, like with a virtual assistant, was such a great next step, because as a business owner, I was able to kind of like educate myself, like how to delegate, what can I delegate? And that really helped me ultimately realize, like, okay, great. Dana has this off and running, like I can focus on these other parts of it. And the trust part, I am a control freak. I'm a type A, that's why I'm so good at events,
right?
Felt too small. And that's just been a huge part. Anytime I work with a new planner, building that trust, personally and professionally is always takes more effort than I want to admit.
Yeah, it does. And it's, think about this. I'll just share this with you. Instead of them feeling like they're being micromanaged, I always just say, I trust you, but I'm going to verify. So trust, but verify. And it's not like I'm looking at every little thing you're doing and I'm redoing it and making it. My team jokingly calls it, are you going to go in there and bonify that? I'm like, maybe.
I like that.
But, it's just verifying. That's just a better word for me. Like, here's your
that.
scope. You're just seeing what they're working on, and you're verifying that it matches the scope, just because we are givers, at least on my team, and we probably go above and beyond and outside of scope many times. That's not always the best situation, but it is what it is. But that's the way I describe it. So let's see, what else did you share with me? This is a good one. I may have even already mentioned it, but delegation isn't about doing less.
Yes.
I like that a lot. Just that one little sentence. Why do you think that? Or why would you say that?
Yeah, I think when I first started delegating, it felt like something that was just like, I could just pass it off my plate. And one woman told me about a great book, when something comes across your desk, you either do it, you defer it, or you delegate it.
Yes.
And I'm totally going to blank on the author's name who wrote the book.
It's all right.
But it really gave me that cadence to not waste time on certain things, to just like grab the bull by the horns, handle it, and move forward. And
How
with
many of us are guilty of, like, you delegate something, but then you just
yes,
fill that amount of time with something that you still don't need to be doing?
exactly, exactly. And it really made me aware of my revenue driving activities. So like,
Yes.
what am I doing during my day that's driving revenue? And I got to a point like fairly recently, like in
Mhm.
the past year or so, I was doing a lot of like free work. I was doing
Yeah.
a lot of work that was not driving any revenue. It was
Mm-mm.
not client facing,
Right.
and nobody cared at the end of the day. So I had to get really specific about, how am I spending my time, and getting really honest about that,
Yeah.
tracking things in my calendar. Like, what am I doing all day?
Right.
Like, sure, I'm
That's
sitting at
a
my
real
computer.
another introspective that every business owner should take, is really
Yes,
take a day or a week and just jot down or look back at your calendar and say, I'm spending time doing what? Like, I can't believe
exactly.
what I'm actually doing. So
Yes.
what's the you shared in a note to me about team
Yeah.
structure and trust.
Mm.
So can you tell us more about your team structure?
Yeah, definitely. So I like to think of myself, at the top to just provide, all the information trickling down, but a really team, horizontal structure. We all
Love
work
it.
really closely together.
Love it.
So I
In
see
tandem.
myself, yeah, completely, completely. I love that. So I really see myself, bringing in the clients, doing those pitch meetings and strategy sessions, really leading the brainstorm. And then we have our account managers that really
Mhm.
become the point of contact for our clients throughout the journey.
Yep.
We also have an operations manager that really helps manage all of our partnerships and the vendors that we bring
Okay.
into our projects. I really take pride in hiring local vendors,
Yeah.
depending on which city we go to. So that's something we really take pride in at Pop Event. Also, a lot of women-owned businesses as well. That's another thing that we take pride
Nice.
in. So we really take time to develop those partnerships so that once we
Okay.
do have these projects, we have our account managers, the operations team. We have a designer who helps, create event logos and event websites.
Mm.
It's amazing how these events, touch every part of a business. And then we have our on-site team who come on site and help
Yeah.
execute the
I'm
programs.
glad you said your company name. I just realized we did a bio, but we didn't even say your company
Oh,
name. So
okay. I have
it
it right
was
here.
in the Boston and New York kind of
Yes,
Northeast, and
yes,
your company name is Pop Event.
correct.
Can you
Yes.
tell me now? I'm going to backtrack a little bit to what I should
Yeah.
have probably asked you in the beginning, but how did you come up with that name?
Yeah, it was my goal is to create a TripAdvisor or Yelp kind of website for corporate event planners so that no
Nice.
matter where you go in the world, you can go to popevent.co and find top local vendors that are perfect for corporate events.
Uh,
Um, so, was looking for a fun name. I went to the College of Charleston down in South Carolina.
mhm.
So the pineapple was a
That's what
nod
that is.
to,
Okay, gotcha.
yeah, the hospitality, a Southern
Cute.
hospitality.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and Pop Event, I love, making events easy for my clients and,
Pop it
you
right
know,
out.
yeah, pop right up. So,
It's like this popcorn, just pop it right out. Oh my gosh, I
yeah,
love that. That's
exactly.
fun. You had
Yeah,
a recent brand change too. It used to be Pop Event,
did,
right? Like with an
did.
A.
Yes,
Okay.
and it was more about the URL. I thought
Oh,
that everything needed to be .com,
yeah.
back in the
No.
day,
Yeah,
and
they
then
did.
suddenly, all my clients have .io, .ai,
You're like,
.xyz. Yeah,
I can do a
so
co.
totally. So yeah, I encourage anyone if you have a business name that you're thinking about, like check out
Oh,
GoDaddy and
heck yeah. Go to
yeah.
I have, I actually own VIP.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. Yeah. Nowadays, you can do it all. That's
You
great.
can. That's so cool how the
Yeah,
evolution of the internet. Yes. So,
totally.
obviously we know that delegation works for you. And so I'm happy that
Yeah.
you're here to share that it is a muscle that can be built strong, and
Mm,
you are a good example of how that works and how it's worked for you and helped you propel your business to greatness. Because I see
yes.
the good things that you're doing. I love all my Bostonians that I've met too remotely in the last 5-6 years.
I
What a
love that.
great group of people out there. Um,
Yeah,
so
Boston's a
kind.
great city.
I have to visit someday.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
yeah. So I'm going to say, My next little point here to make is you threw a good one out here, and it's a one-liner that I might ask some of the others too that are having success with delegation like yourself. Why does it work?
Why does it work? Good question. Why does it work? I was going to say, carving time out at the beginning of the week to really think about what am I going to ask everybody to do this week? That was something that I always assumed or wished people would just know. And, whether it's my clients who are attending events or, my team, like everybody needs some direction. And I recognize that I'm a leader. That's another thing. I have to recognize that I'm the leader, I'm the owner of this business. So I have to have that executive presence that, obviously we're always building over time. But I think when I over communicate and I make things super clear and I put them in writing, it helps hold me accountable to tell people what I'm looking for, what my expectations are. And now, I've taken it a step further that, we have a Excel sheet and status tracking. And so that it's there for everyone to see. And if you have a question, we can answer it, but otherwise, making sure people have enough work and they're not overwhelmed, but that at the end of the week, that this is what I can expect from them and keep these clients happy.
I love that.
Has been something that's, always a moving target, but always so worthwhile.
Yeah. And then again, you also shared with me that if you're the bottleneck and not being in that leadership guidance position, you can't grow because they're just sitting there in limbo. They're not being led. They're in limbo. And how is a business ever going to grow if you don't lead and be the bottleneck? Yeah.
Exactly. And, and I do recognize there are times that I still am that bottleneck, yeah. Right. Okay, good. I'm not the only one. But, our spring and our fall are our busiest seasons. I just got off the road from, back-to-back trade shows. Everybody wants to get together before the summer season and then, get together before the holidays. So I really love that cadence of my business. And, now I can prepare for it. We've been in business since 2016. So I'm able to anticipate that the spring is going to be crazy. And then, I have the summer months to play a little catch up.
And do a little back office thing and do a little creative brainstorming and to make, I have the same kind of ebb and flow in my businesses as well.
Yeah. I love that. And something being a business owner that, something to take advantage of, like I love the slower season. And then I love, when I'm, back to back.
Go. Yeah.
Exactly.
Way back in the day, I was an executive assistant for almost 30 years. A lot of meeting planning came along with my job and events. And that was one of the fun things. So you're doing the fun part of my old job.
Totally.
When I have to sit behind my desk and make my boss look good. That's about all I did for 30 years,
I hear you. And that's one thing that I find, across the board, that a lot of these companies have these people on the marketing team, on the HR team, and the EA position that are just expected to do events, for the holiday party, organize the President's Club. And that's really where I found my sweet spot to become an extension of the team and to join to help enhance the team during, those busy times or when, leadership finally says, this isn't part of your job description, let's hire someone.
Yeah. I wish that happened to me.
Seriously.
Like, well, here, Bonnie, do this.
Exactly.
And the reason I love a corporate dropout over here.
Completely. Yes, I am a corporate dropout. I like that.
Yeah, I wrote a book about it. No, I wrote a chapter in a book called Corporate Dropouts. It's available on Amazon.
Okay, I'll check that out. I love that.
Number one bestseller.
Yes.
So if you were to drop a couple more golden nuggets or give some advice for our audience to part with today, do you have 2 or 3 little nuggets for us?
Yeah. Let me think. I would say, I really needed to get clear about what was driving revenue. At the end of the day, I don't want to work 8 hours a day at my desk on Zoom. That was very clear to me. Am I working more than 8 hours most days? Yes. But I think more recently I've recognized my word of the year is ease. I'm looking to create more ease
I like that.
in my life. Yeah. And I think that once I got super clear on what I was spending my time on. And if it wasn't client work that was driving revenue, or it wasn't strategic strategy for the website that was, then why was I doing it? So I think looking at your calendar and really thinking about what's revenue driving and what are some things you can just take yourself off the hook, and maybe you're doing a lot of work that doesn't need to be done. That was one exercise that I, still reaping the benefits of.
Can I throw a book title at you?
Yeah, please.
It was just of course the author escapes me too, but
Yeah.
it was my coach that shared it with me, and it might help you too. And it's one word: essentialism.
Interesting.
And
Okay.
it's just like I'm not a huge book reader. I actually wrote a book, but I'm not a book reader, which is, whatever. I like to write. I like to talk. But that one word has so much impact to me that it got me into a cadence of weekly looking at my calendar and being like, is this meeting essential?
That's
Nah.
great.
And then I'd cancel the meeting, because what's in my head that day? Did the world just fall over here with this client? Do I need to spend, is it more essential for me to be present over here, or is it kind of a slow day and that's cool? It's not essential, but I can still handle it. So that one word, and I cannot think of the author, but I'll share it in the notes when we share this on YouTube. But I highly recommend that book. And that was a coach book. One of my coach, Becky, she was been a guest on the podcast too. And I'm not a huge book reader, but it's a great reference kind of book that when you're just having a moment to help you decide whether something's essential, you can thumb through it and find what you need. But so keep going. So what else can you give us?
No, and thinking of books, I still have, Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week, has post-its in it from years ago. He's come out with a lot of other books since, but just that efficiency and recognizing that you can still crank out a lot of the same revenue working a lot less is something that I'm always thinking about. And then, the other thing I was just thinking about, like designers and hiring people for their strengths. I would love to say I can do bookkeeping. I know how to.
I could figure it out.
I can figure it out. But at the end of the day, like I need to be working on, getting new clients in the door. I don't need to be doing, exactly. So I think really getting clear on items that you can hire people for. And even with that graphic design, I know people think that Canva is, and some other tools are helping so much, which they are. But I also think hiring some experts for, very specific projects, I want a logo, I want a slide deck. It just elevates your brand completely. And I think in this virtual world, your website, your logo, your social media, that's your front door. So I like to think about, if I had a brick and mortar shop, am I putting flowers in the window boxes? Am I cleaning the windows? Like I need to be doing that for.
I love analogies. I'm a visual, so I immediately saw that store when you said
that. So just keeping that fresh and recognizing, like when companies or potential clients come to your website, like this is your front door. Like what are they seeing? Does it say what you do? Does it say, another point I could add is like, what clients do you want more of? I didn't want more weddings in the beginning of my planning days. Like I didn't want any more 40th birthday parties. So I took that off my website and suddenly over the years, I don't do that at all anymore.
Darn, I'm turning 40. No, I'm just kidding.
No, right?
I'm
always happy to help. But that getting really specific about what business I wanted in the future, thinking about the 2026 version of Caitlin.
And sometimes, if you were doing it yourself, you keep seeing the same thing over and you're not thinking outside the box of where your head is going, but having someone else come in, look at what you've maybe initially drafted and then putting their stamp on it, or their zhuzh. I use the word zhuzh a lot with me and my Chat GPT BFF. We use the word zhuzh a lot. Her name is Pippa, by the way, and she has a British accent.
Ooh, I like that.
She's so fun. So final thought. I'd love you to share a final thought with us today. What do you think? You mentioned something about building with intention.
I would say building with intention. And, I would say to other business owners, like, you're doing more than enough. I think that it's so easy to get through each day feeling like, oh, I should have done a million other things. And I think when I tell myself that I'm doing enough it helps me recognize that, there's a certain amount of time in the day. I have a certain amount of energy in the day, and it gets me down to those, what are those 2 things I need to do today? And, what can I delegate? And I think that just adds clarity and calm to my brain in this world that's always, there's so much going on, and you could be live, on Instagram Live 24/7, like recognizing, seriously, like what's really moving the needle here. And, you're doing more than enough. So with that thought process moving forward, like it really gave me that, that courage and that calm demeanor to keep moving forward. And, I've been, 9-10 years of having my own business, and you have to recognize that, you've got to take care of yourself before you.
No kidding. I meant about that exact same point. I started as a side hustle in 2015. 2017, I went full time. So we're kind of about the same timeline. So that's nice to know. And I'll just tell the audience, yes, she's been my client for a while, but I delegated when she came on board, and I didn't even meet her.
Completely. I love that. I admire that about you.
Thank you. That's when we were just jamming during the COVID, I think, time, and I needed help. And I recognized that. It was like, honey, when I said to my husband, honey, when can we stop taking clients? What an awful place to be. But and he was like, never. I'm like, oh, great.
I love
Time
it.
to pivot. Somebody else has got to bring them on for me. So that worked, obviously, but I'm so happy. And that's on me for not having scheduled something for you and I. But you know what? We need to run some businesses, and we don't want to be a bottleneck chit-chatting all day like we are. But this has a purpose. So thank you for being part of my purpose.
Definitely. Thank you.
I will share everything about Pop Event with everybody that listens today or whenever they listen. This is still new for me. We are getting very close to my top 50 episodes. I can't believe I'm this far in. You are episode 49.
Great. Oh, I'm honored. Thank you.
I love it. Thank you so much. I just want to thank everybody for listening again today, and please reach out to Caitlin here if you need any help with the event and planning. You need some marketing for your events, that kind of thing. You work across the country, right? Or just US based?
All over the world.
All over the world.
Barcelona, London, Portugal. So anytime I can help with trade shows or events.
Good to know, because I know we have listeners are all over the world that. And mostly, I think, in the English-speaking countries. But hey, if you can understand me in a different language right now, I will give some information, and maybe she can speak Portuguese. I don't know.
Definitely. Always happy to help.
All right. Well, everybody have a great day. Please like, subscribe, leave us a review, and let me know if you'd like to have Caitlin back. She is very motivating for me, so I'd happily have her back. But I would love some notes or DMs, and let me know what you want to talk more about with her. So take care, delegate to elevate, and get that done, people. Bye, Caitlin.
Thank you, Bonnie.
So that's it for today's episode of Delegate to Elevate. Head on over to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen and subscribe to the show. One lucky listener every single week that posts a review on Apple Podcasts or iTunes will win a chance in the grand prize drawing to win a $15,000 private VIP day with Bonnie herself. Be sure to head on over to delegatetoelevatepodcast.com. That's with the number 2. And pick up a free copy of Bonnie's gift and join us on the next episode.